Hey everyone, welcome back to one of Vendel's History Fashion Showcases. So up this week we have the Nobushi. It's been a little while since I've had the opportunity to make one of these videos because I've been pretty busy with a broad variety of different things. For a quick window aspect into my life, my wife is pregnant and we're about to have our first child, so that's exciting. I just finished school and my job as well, but I'm still finishing up some things for work, and I've had family in town as well because my sister Tara graduated from college as well, and she lives nearby, and so it's just been kind of a very, very hectic last month and a half, which has been great though. It's been exciting and it's been a lot of fun. There's a lot of things that I'm looking forward to. But not to dwell too much on that, let's go ahead and get into the Nobushi and the things we'll be talking about in this video. So as a brief overview, I'm going to be talking about the different armor, the perks, the executions, and some of the other cosmetic things that go into making the Nobushi who she is. We're also going to be discussing the history of the character. Usually, however, with the Nobushi, it's kind of hard to draw a distinct line to a specific character or archetype that's present in Japanese history. So instead, I'm going to be discussing a few other subjects, such as the three Great Unifiers, the caste system, social mobility, and the sword hunts of Hideyoshi. And also, with that, the connection there is Nobushi's character as potentially a peasant warrior. But let's go ahead and get into some of the armor, and we'll talk about the history after we've gone over some of the overviews of what you can make her look like. So first off, let's go ahead and just present the three different outfits that I've designed. This first outfit, one of the most interesting things about the Nobushi's armor is it's got a lot of uniqueness to it, in both its style and in what each armor set has to offer. But each chest piece also has associated with it, like many of the samurai do, very colorful and distinctive pants that do not adapt with your color scheme. Because of that, you can use those pants as a basis for your color scheme, or you can use them to make your character's color look even more eclectic. For the first Nobushi that I designed, and that I'm very happy with, was this gold-green kind of theme, based on the pants that you see here. Moving on to the next one. There's a lot of people that do this, but the fox-styled mask on this helmet is quite unique. Now, it's hard to choose how I wanted to face paint it, and a lot of people will just leave the entire thing red or with its just natural colors. This features a helmet that has two masks. As you'll see later, there's a broad variety of helmets that have this style. It is one of the types that you'll see present a lot, and was generally built to match her pants. Unfortunately, I don't have a color palette that really perfectly pulls out the essence of the kind of lighter pink on the pants. However, some purples that I may unlock further on if I continue to work on the Nobushi would look very good on this outfit. But as a general, she's meant to be a fiery warrior and would focus on that kind of aspect of the red fox. For the final outfit that I've designed, this one is definitely my favorite. It's the cleanest, it's the most unique, it comes off really, really bright. The white and green forced pant color from this set makes it so you can really design with one very fluid color the brightness of this outfit. These particular armor pieces, from the chest piece to the hand, matches really well because you can even see how the gold outlay matches material-wise with her bracers down on her legs. There's a better word for that than bracers. Bracers are for arms, but I can't remember what it is right now. And it just has a very, very clean and constructed armor look. This looks like someone who is now risen to her pinnacle, to her peak. She has good armor now, and she is ready for combat. So let's talk about the Nobushi's name. When we talk about Japanese words and the translations and what went into them for how they decided to present them in the game, a lot of the times the makers of this game decided to create their own kind of Japanesey sounding or phrase that isn't some classic ideal warrior. For example, they didn't just call the Shigoki the sumo, instead they called him the Shigoki. So Nobushi doesn't actually have some distinct connection. However, the word bushi means warrior, and no can be read as a variety of different things. It can be a particle, it can mean field, it can mean artistic in the form of no theater. Now for me, I chose to go with the idea of her being a peasant or field warrior. She is someone that was drawn into the war, forced to fight because of the times, and rose up as a folk hero to defend her village and bring glory, and slowly she gains renown, becoming either from her original peasant position, which honestly I should have a rice hat on this one if I'm trying to emphasize that style, to eventually her folk hero style, emphasizing the aspects of nature spirits, and then after that, or finally, into her form as an actual warrior of prowess, with very high-end and clean armor and beautiful wear, clean clothes, and etc. She has transcended her social class as a peasant by the time she's wearing armor such as this. So let's go ahead and get into the specifics of each of the individual pieces of armor. There's many different hats available to the Nobushi, and one of the things that makes her really fun is how unique each of the 5 different general styles there are. First off, you have these helmets that feature her face, where you get to actually see her expression as she's doing things. Second off, you've got these hats that feature the classic, would be classic because they're her original style of hat, rice paper or straw hat, built or taken from the straw hats that were probably used to work out in the field by rice pickers. Third type, we've got the double-sided masks, as we've already discussed, with the flat brim hat. Fourth type, we've got these helmet pieces, also with a mask, that don't look too different from her typical straw pieces. And then we've got her basket helmets that usually come with some really, really creepy face masks, but are more akin to the straw hats that the Aramusha uses, with their braiding in the front so she can see through it, that interestingly enough, because they're working in the fields, they're often bent down, so having it open in the top still generally keeps the sun off of their faces. Because of the angle they're at, it just allows them to see more of what's going on around them. A clever design, really, and they really protect the body well, especially the bigger ones. And those are kind of the different face masks that you'll see on her. There's some really interesting variations on the double mask ones. This one particular because of the varied eyes on either side, or this one which has the lion-like sculpture on the back, or this one that has the bat demon on the back. Very, very interesting. And it's really hard for me to say what I like best or the least. I gotta say, some of the creepy masks are not my favorite, but I love the variety in expression that this character is able to have with the different pieces that she has available to her for her headwear. For her chest pieces, she has a couple different sets. She's got her armored sets, as we talked about a little bit earlier, that also include a mengu or face mask around her neck. She's got her more cloaked sets that can look really, really clean and ornate, but are probably more emphasizing the peasant nature of her character as someone that would work in the field. Then you've also got these ones with the basically Dragon Ball Z shoulder pads. I'm not really sure where they got the idea for this one, other than probably from Dragon Ball Z. I don't know the origin of large shoulder pads like this, though it probably also might have a connection to certain Chinese styles, is what I would surmise, and the flares that are held therein. That about sums it up for her different pieces there. There's some variation in kimono and pants and arm guards, of course. And so that's what we're going to talk about next, because those are the other part that are adaptable separately from the chest piece. So we've got first off these slicker armored arms that you'll see in a couple different places that are mainly built to work with her chest piece that actually contains the breastplate. We've also got a few that are more cloth-like of different forms, some of them that have some prayer beads tied around the wrists that allow you to maybe have some perspective into her or give her a more spiritual presence, or monastic, you know, whatever you want to call it. And then you've also got a few that just have like arm guards of different types, and then there's some ones that have an imbalance between a padded sleeve on one side and a very interesting sleeve on the other side. The right arm on these is particularly interesting to me because I don't know if it's really how the fighter would fight most efficiently, but she has wrapping, if you look closely, underneath the net that's on her arm. Now, wrapping like that is similar to like the I can't think of the word, compress suits or compress sleeves or compress shirts that people wear today when they're exercising, because it provides stability for their muscles so that they reform in the right position. Now, her wrapping here is probably to give her back arm the same kind of strength that I just mentioned. And it's just kind of interesting because of the character it gives her with the purpose of how she fights and how she uses her particular weapon. As far as the, I guess you could call it, what would you call this? The spear. It's a spear. It's a... Naginata is the right word. That's the word I'm looking for. My wife chimed in there to help me out for a second because she happens to be out there, so I appreciate that. Thank you for suggesting that word. So the Naginata, it has a lot of variations that are really pretty in terms of what you can have the blade look like. I'm just going to do an extremely quick overview because there's still a lot of material that I want to get through, and I don't want to make this video exceptionally long. But you can see that there's a lot of different color schemes, a lot of bright aspects to the weapon and to the staff, with different gilding, patterns, materials that give it a lot of character and feel. Alright, moving on to her feats, executions, perks, all that kind of good stuff. We're going to go ahead and talk about her feats and perks before we get into the other more cosmetic things, I should say, because of their functionality with the game. So first off, for her first feat, she has the choice of Iron Lungs, Speed Revive, or Body Count. Now most people, because Nobushi is a fairly mobile character, tend to make use of Speed Revive. Her long range and sweep attacks does allow her to clear out enemies in Dominion really well, but in Breach, it's not actually the most effective. So for me, Speed Revive is the piece that shines the most on her slot here for the utility that it offers in all modes and how helpful it can be. For her second, she has the option of Arrow Strike, Smoke Bomb, and Revenge Attacks. Revenge Attacks is always helpful. It doesn't matter who you're playing because it just allows you to build up that revenge meter, and especially with the current state of Revenge, with how glitchy it can be, can sometimes allow you to top it off yourself when it's really close to the end and then someone leaves so you're back in a 1v1 scenario. But Smoke Bomb is also very useful. I have not seen a lot of good use of Arrow Strike too much. It's kind of hard to employ properly. For her third feat, she has the use of Second Wind, Longbow, or Sharpen Blade. Now, Sharpen Blade definitely allows her to stick out the damage. Second Wind, though, as I've said many times before, allows you to take more hits in a fight, get revenge more easily, therefore, and turn things around more readily. Therefore, in my personal opinion, Second Wind is the choice, but you can't deny that either of those other two options are actually decent. For her fourth tier feat, she has a variety of different options that work well, particularly as a defensive player in Breach modes. Stalwart Banner is renowned for healing your team and for healing the commander, which makes it particularly special. Arrow Storm can be used to destroy the ram if you're hoping to go for a victory using that method. And Fire Trap is of course actually really decent at taking out enemy teams if you layer them in the right place. Unfortunately, none of these are exceptionally useful in my opinion for being an attacker on Breach, though Stalwart Banner is still probably the safest pick. Moving on to her perks. So for me, the perks that I choose to run with her when I have the choice is Radiant Rebound, Feline Agility, and Rapid Refresh. Now, if I could, I would take Feline Agility, Rising Dawn, and Rapid Refresh, but you cannot take Rapid Refresh and Rising Dawn together along with a third perk just because of how the perk points line up on armor. I don't know why they decided to do this, but that is a thing. So Rapid Refresh, Feline Agility, and Radiant Rebound give her the identity of being able to very quickly navigate the field, help using her Speed Revive perk revive other people, and therefore get access to her other damaging or utility feats for healing or whatever else much sooner. In this setup actually works wonders during Breach. I've been really impressed with how quickly I can get to zones. Now, a possible switch up I could do is trade out Radiant Rebound for Clever Tactics, given the fact that then Clever Tactics would enable me to capture zones faster, and she's already built to run decently fast, but I just don't feel like it offers that much purpose, and a lot of the times it's going to be going fast enough anyways that 15% makes very little difference. Particularly in Dominion as well. Capturing a zone is nice, but this will maybe save you 1 point every now and again for holding the zone that little bit longer. So really, Clever Tactics is not, in my opinion, that drastic. Now, a lot of people ask why I wouldn't use Rising Dawn, and like I said, it's all because of the setup, but instead of Rapid Refresh, and it's because Rapid Refresh allows you to have other ways to help your team. You can use your Arrow Storms more frequently to destroy the ram. You can use your Health Banner to heal the group sooner, or to heal the commanders sooner. You can use Second Wind to heal yourself more frequently. Whereas Rising Dawn only helps other people. And it's a significant amount of help that it gives to other people. But I just still don't necessarily see its usefulness unless you're definitely playing attacker. And in that case, that's where it shines. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the history things that I wanted to go over today in the context of the Nobushi's character. Now, I discussed a little bit earlier about the origins of her name and potentially where I think they come from, as well as the idea of her social mobility, starting out as a peasant and becoming a high-class warrior or a samurai of sorts, fully fledged. Now, for this purpose, we're going to talk about the 3 different subjects I mentioned earlier. And let's start with the caste system. Across Asia, there's this general idea of a caste system that's been in existence for a while. It comes from Hinduism and Buddhism, I think, originally, but there's definitely other texts that detail similar ideas. And the idea of the caste system, if you separate it out from its Buddhist roots and its discussion of the afterlife and reincarnation, is essentially that you keep people at different points in life separated from each other, and you are not necessarily supposed to move between your castes. For example, in the Indian caste system, which is still prevalent today in some sad ways, there was the untouchables at the bottom. After the untouchables, you had the general peasants. After the peasants, were the peasants of the merchant class first? I can't remember. I can never remember. Okay, well anyways, you have some combination of peasants and merchants, then you have warriors, and then you have scholars. Now when we move across into China, that pattern tends to hold the same, but then when it gets into Japan, the pattern switches up a little bit. You have peasants at the bottom. There is no necessarily untouchable class, there's just peasants. After the peasants, you'll get into merchants. Merchants are actually supposed to be lower than peasants, according to the Japanese ideals. Are peasants above artisans? Yeah, you're right. Okay, so I'm entirely wrong. Gonna give me just a second here. Retracting what I just said. So in samurai social class mobility, the lowest caste is the merchants. Now, this is actually an interesting idea. The merchants being the lowest caste, of course, they didn't end up always being the lowest caste, but they were supposed to treat everyone with respect because they were not creating any actual physical property for anyone. They were just moving it around. Therefore, they provided the least physical economic benefit to the whole of Japan and to the people surrounding them. Above them are the artisans, and these are the people that work with the goods. Now, artisans are special because of what they create, the beauty that they create, the ornate things they make, but again, technically, according to their ideals and their texts, above the artisans should be the peasants. And the reason for that is because the peasants actually create the food and they farm the goods that people need to live on. And therefore, the peasants is the caste that is in some ways supposed to be right below the samurai, which is the highest caste. Samurai also including the scholar caste and being the identifying class of nobility as well. The nobles in Japan were always distinctly associated as warriors as well. Now, maneuvering between these castes in Japan historically has been easier than in most of Asia, but is still difficult. Particularly during wartime, though, you could see peasants, artisans, or merchants decide to pick up weapons, train themselves, and fight. If they performed well in the wars, oftentimes they could be raised up to status as a samurai. However, that came to kind of an end in 1600s. There was 3 great unifiers at the end of the Great Wars and at the beginning of the era of peace, known as the Tokugawa period. And those 3 great unifiers worked, I wouldn't necessarily say together, but in a progressive effort as they took each other's place over time to create the peaceful era that modern Japan is most classically now renowned for. Now, those 3 great unifiers were Oda Nobunaga, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, and then Ieyasu Tokugawa. I cannot speak right now. We're going to be talking just about, for the sake of time, Toyotomi Hideyoshi. So, of the 3, Toyotomi Hideyoshi was supposed to be the most crafty. He knew how to work the system, he knew how to figure things out, and interestingly enough, he navigated the social caste system and was able to become a samurai because of just how he managed to transcend and present his ideas to people. He was much lower class when he first got into government, and it's amazing to think he almost rose to become the shogun. Now, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, however, didn't want other people doing the same thing he did because he thought it was something that would be unstable for the society of Japan. Therefore, he came up with a unique plan. He wanted to gather all of the arms, weaponry from the entirety of the peasant class across Japan and essentially take it away from them. Now, of course, when you want to take away people's weapons, normally they freak out and complain. In particular, monks freak out and complain about this because Japanese warrior monks are way different than European monks, just saying that again. But he rationalized it and made peace with the monks and peace with the peasant class by having all of the swords that they confiscated or took recast and made into Buddha statues. throughout the land. Reverent statues to gods or to kami or to other significant characters and historical monuments, which gave rise to a lot of the beautiful structures we have in Japan. And also, of course, taking away the swords from the peasants, reduced their aspirations to actually become warriors and their ability to train and therefore rise to the samurai caste. During the Tokugawa period, for this reason, the castes were fairly well more set in stone. However, being a samurai was not worth quite as much as it used to be, because the samurai had no wars to fight during the peaceful time, and therefore they become kind of the artful poetic class that just bides their time and practices. They were meant to serve the emperor when the time came and to serve Japan in wars, but were unable to do so given the peaceful times. That about sums it up for the history I wanted to talk about this video, so now let's get into the final cosmetic aspects that I wanted to go over. So let's take a look at her executions. She has a variety of different ones that all come basically across as a slash across the neck in some different way. I actually wish she had a little more variety in her executions. That being said, most of them are fairly pleasant. My very favorite one is the Ohisama no Kataki. This is cool because of the moonsault that she does before striking, and is my personal favorite. For a few other unique ones she has, the reasons I don't like them is because they show her letting the enemy kind of control her movement a little bit and then her having to react to it. Like in this one, when she pulls the enemy forward because he's hanging onto the spear. 5 deadly stabs. This one's simple, it looks good and it's clean, but I feel like for something that's just like quick stabs, it could almost be quicker just to make it more, I don't know, unique. Spiritual Journey is another one of those, where it's essentially just a trip and then a stab. Oikase, he again grabs the spear and she makes use of it. I'm not really sure if the arm breaking would work the way she shows it, or the arm posting, I guess you could call it, does here, but you know, it is what it is. Butterfly Dance bothers me. 2 reasons. 1, she lets the enemy grab her weapon and then has to deal with it. 2, as she's performing her little side kick, she doesn't actually do so very acrobatically. I don't know who they got to mocap this, but you could have a lot more momentum built up for that after throw if she did a bigger moonsault like you see in Ohisama no Kataki. And then finally she shows off at the end with a little spin trick that's unnecessary, but you know, that's the flair. Dearest Pity is interesting, but also certainly kind of creepy. Can't deny that, but it is a unique kill. Sting Like a Bee, it's another slash across the neck. Not surprising. Snap Off is one of those few that, you know, doesn't look quite right without heads being taken off. Give Us a Smile is another one of her exceptionally creepy ones. Now, I don't know what it is, but when a Centurion lords around before killing you, it just feels like he's being pompous because that's what he is. When the Nobushi lords around, I almost feel like she's kind of very blood hungry. Get some creepy vibes from this particular execution. Then Kuriyuroi no Mai, I actually like because of the varied stabbing, the positioning, and the spins that are in place during it. This one's controlled, this one's nice, and is probably the only of execution that I may one day procure for her. For her emotes, we'll just go ahead and give you a quick overview on all of these. I'm not going to comment too much on them. I honestly should have ran these while I was doing the historical segment, but I'll just show off some of the unique ones that she has so you can see kind of the different things that she can do. Now, everyone has a sporting emote. Hers is pool, so that's what she gets to do. You even get to hear the little clacking sounds of the pool balls. It's nice. Mushi coin toss is a little bit of a booty bump. Her kill card, she does kind of a curtsy. That one has some flair to it. Power is kind of humorous to me because it is kind of the, you know, the black power symbol in a way, most distinctly. But honestly, raising your hand like that is a sign of affirmation and strength, no matter who you are. It's not held specifically and uniquely just for that culture. Now, I've talked about it before, but I don't know why, but with the Proudly 70 emote, people always tuck their necks back in with that final pose, and with a few people it looks in particular odd. Her, it's not so bad. Dignified curtsy. Calling someone out. Getting ready for the fight. Bring it on kind of feel. And then finally, the very flary, that's the prideful that I think about when I think about the Centurion or the Nobushi taunting people. I like this emote. I wish I had more steel to spare. I could just pick it up right now, but I have other things I'm intending to get with it in the near future. Since I play a lot of different characters, I have to spread it out pretty thin. Well, that about sums it up for this video. I hope you've enjoyed this. Now, I've only done I haven't discussed her ornaments. Let's go ahead and do that really, really quick, and then I'll close out after that. So she's got a lot of cool ones that feature on her hats in different ways. One of the things that's really interesting about the different ornaments that she has is they sit very differently on her helmet. So some ornaments look really awesome with certain helmets types and really awful with others. One such ornament that is one of my particular favorites is the antlers ornament, which I don't actually have unlocked, but that'll show off at the very end because it's near the bottom. It's one of the tournament unlocked ones. It'll happen someday. But the point being is the helmet tends to put things a little more wide than the actual straw hats do, and therefore it can make some of them just look a little bit weird or a little too far off. For instance, these, I would love them if they were pointed more outwards and the base of them was closer to the interior of the helmet, so they actually looked like almost natural horns. As it were, they just look kind of awkward sticking out like that. However, if you move over and you switch to one of her helmets that has, let me switch over to it. Okay, not that one. Alright, we'll just edit it here. To the folded brim, then the actual appearance of the ornament looks really, really clean because of how it angles out of her hat. And it looks like it could actually be part of her character if she was some kind of mystic kami of some sort. And I kind of like that aspect, and you lose out on that when you're wearing her metal helmets instead. So like I said, that sums it up for this video. So we'll go ahead and close out with those thoughts. But also, you know, I talked about a lot of things today, but I didn't go into super detail because I just didn't want to make the video run on for too long, and it's already been fairly extensive as it is. But the whole story of the 3 Great Unifiers is extremely interesting, particularly the aspect of who each of them were. Oda Nobunaga, for example, was a warlord for sure. He is often represented as a demon in many video games, modern video games. Toyotomi Hideyoshi was a smart man that rose from odd circumstances. And then Tokugawa Ieyasu was the peaceful one. And that's the interesting thing about how it all came to be. Tokugawa Ieyasu, actually, let's just put it this way. There's a poem, I'm not going to get it exact right, but it's a very classic, almost, I wouldn't say it's a poem, but it's a folk saying that how all 3 of these unifiers would have treated the same bird in their efforts to make Japan peaceful. And all of them were striving for peace. But Oda Nobunaga, if he saw a bird and he couldn't get it to sing, he would kill the bird. Toyotomi Hideyoshi would manipulate the bird. And then Oda Nobunaga would patiently wait for the bird to sing. Those are the differences between those 3 characters, and I may in a future video discuss them more, the interplay between their relationships in a little more detail, because it was an extremely interesting and dynamic time in Japanese's changing history. I also discussed a little bit about the caste system, which I could talk about in more detail, and if you'd like to see me do that, do let me know down in the other videos, and I'll try to, in the comments down below, and I'll try to include it in a later one of these videos with another character. With that being said, that about finishes up. I haven't finished one of these in a while, and so it kind of feels weird to actually be closing down. But I appreciate you guys for watching. I really appreciate the excitement some of you have had for these videos in particular, because I know that you guys actually thoroughly enjoy them. And that makes me happy, because this is the kind of thing that I really enjoy doing. And I'm glad that there's some people that have an interest in the history of these characters as well. And I have said once before that I do intend to eventually one day actually move on and start making ones for more than just the samurai, but I am going to finish up the samurai first. So I'll try to have another one of these out next week, and coming up next week, we're probably going to feature either the Aramusha or the Shinobi. after those ones finish, then maybe if I get the Hitokiri leveled up enough, I will do her before progressing on to one of the other factions. Likely I'll be doing Vikings next because it's the one I have furthest along outside of this. Anyways, with that being said, I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I've said that a couple times, but I really do, and I've really enjoyed these videos, and I enjoy the support that you guys have given me. So, without further ado, Vendel out.